Have you ever found yourself planning a short trip to, say, a really vibrant city like Manila, maybe for work, and thinking, I need something more like a home base, not just a hotel room?
Yeah, something with a bit more character, maybe a kitchen.
Exactly. Or perhaps you're on the flip side, you own a place there, it's empty sometimes, and you're thinking, hey, maybe I could rent this out short term, make a bit of extra cash. Sounds pretty straightforward, right?
Seems simple on the surface, doesn't it?
Okay, well, let's unpack this a bit. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the world of short-term rentals in Manila. It's dynamic, sometimes a bit confusing.
Definitely complex.
Our mission here is to cut through some of that noise, show you what's really going on, and give you the info you need, whether you're looking for a place or thinking of listing one.
And we've got some great insights for this.
We do. Our source material comes from moveandstay.com. Now, these guys have been helping business travelers and expats find places across Asia for, what, over 25 years now?
Yeah, a long time. They really know the landscape.
They definitely do. So they understand this market inside and out.
And what's really fascinating here, and what Move and Stay's info really highlights, is that it's so much more than just, clicking book or list.
Right.
There are layers here, rules, money, practical stuff that can genuinely make or break your experience. Getting a handle on these layers is key.
It's the difference between smooth sailing and a real headache, basically.
Precisely.
So you might think, okay, finding or setting up a short-term rental in Manila, easy peasy, just use an app. But the sources are really clear. The absolute first step, the crucial one, getting your head around the rules.
And that's where it gets interesting immediately, because Manila isn't just one place with one set of rules.
No, it's sprawling. It's made up of all these different cities and municipalities, right? Makati, Quezon City, Taguig.
Pasig, Mandaluyong. Yeah, the list goes on. And here's the thing. Each local government unit, or LGU, has its own specific ordinances.
Its own rules for business permits, its own zoning regulations.
Exactly. So what flies in, say, a condo in Bonifacio Global City in Taguig, might be totally forbidden in a residential street in Quezon City.
So you really have to do your homework. Check the specific LGU websites, maybe even visit their offices.
You absolutely do. And this brings up a really critical point, something for anyone involved to think about.
Which is?
Just because you see tons of listings online, especially on the big platforms, doesn't mean they're all strictly legal.
Ah, right. The source mentioned many might be flying under the radar.
That's the phrase they used.
Ah.
And look, that might seem minor, but it carries real risks. For guests, what if your booking gets canceled last minute because the LGU cracked down?
Or you have an issue and no proper legal standing because the place isn't registered.
Exactly. And for owners,
Oh.
you could be looking at hefty fines, getting shut down, maybe even legal trouble. Plus, think about insurance operating commercially without permits could void your policy.
It's a significant gray area then.
It really is.
And that's before you even get to condo rules. If your property is in a condominium building or maybe a gated community, there's that whole other layer. The homeowners association, the HOA.
Oh yeah, HOAs can be notoriously strict.
Right. Our source really hammers this home. Read the HOA rules carefully, go to meetings if you can, get a feel for things.
And critically, get written approval before you list.
Absolutely. Imagine getting your place all ready, spending money, and then finding out you're breaking the rules before anyone even stays there.
Nightmare scenario. And this connects directly to the zoning rules we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Even if your HOA says yes, the city might still say no. Running a short-term rental from the city's perspective might look like a commercial business.
Which might not be allowed in a purely residential zone.
Precisely. So you need to check your property zoning. You might even need to apply for a special permit or a variance.
Which sounds complicated.
It can be lengthy, maybe costly, definitely not straightforward.
Yeah.
But underpinning all of this, remember the Civil Code of the Philippines generally governs lease agreements, even short ones.
Right. That's the basic legal framework for contracts and property.
Yep.
Okay, now here's a stat from our source that really made me sit up. It's pretty startling.
Go on.
Out of about 1,419 short-term rental listings currently available in Manila, guess how many have the proper short-term rental licenses?
Uh-oh. Knowing what we just discussed,
Yeah,
very few.
0%.
Zero.
Seriously.
Zero. None. Zip. Which is,
Ugh.
wow, it's a huge indicator that while the rules exist on paper, the actual enforcement seems Very lax.
That's incredible. And it creates such a strange situation for guests. Maybe more options, but less official protection.
And for owners, maybe it feels like you can get away with it, but there's always that risk hanging over you, right? What if enforcement suddenly ramps up?
Exactly. Fines, shutdowns. It's like operating on a tightrope, a market really on a knife edge, as you said. Okay, so that's the regulatory maze. Let's switch gears and talk money, the numbers game.
Right, the financial side.
Yeah.
What can you actually charge? What will you actually pay? And what are those costs people forget about?
Our sources give us some key numbers. The average daily rate, the ADR in Manila, it's floating around PHP 1,847
Okay, about 1,850 pesos a day.
on average, and the occupancy rate, around 51%. So basically places are booked just over half the time, again, on average.
And average is the key word there, isn't it? Because there's so much variation hidden in those numbers.
Absolutely. Like a really nice condo in Makati versus a simple studio somewhere else. Totally different ADRs.
Of course. And amenities make a huge difference. Got a pool, a gym, amazing city view. That bumps up your booking rate and what you can charge.
So yeah, the averages are a starting point, but your specific place location type features, that's what really drives performance.
Definitely.
So how do you take these averages and figure out potential revenue? The calculation itself is pretty simple, gives you a ballpark.
How does that work?
You take your estimated ADR, multiply by the number of days in a month, let's say 30, and then multiply that by your target occupancy rate as a decimal.
Okay, makes sense.
So using the average, PHP 1,847 times 30 days, times let's aim for 60% occupancy, so 0.60.
Right.
That gives you a potential monthly revenue of around PHP 33,246.
Okay, about 33,000 pesos a month, potentially.
Potentially. But then you have to factor in seasonality, right? Peak season, off season. Prices might need to change. Competition, too.
Absolutely. Dynamic pricing is probably smart in a market like Manila. But this raises the big question for owners. What about the costs? The stuff that eats into that 33,000.
Ah, yes, the hidden or maybe not so hidden costs. People underestimate these.
Very easily done. You've got cleaning between guests, for starters.
Utilities will probably jump up more aircon, more water usage.
Maintenance, things breaking unexpectedly. Platform fees, Airbnb, Booking.com, they take a cut.
Yeah, that can be anywhere from 3% to maybe 15% of the booking price.
And taxes. Income tax, maybe local business taxes if it's seen as commercial.
Can't forget the tax man. And again, the civil code kind of oversees the financial fairness of it all, too.
Right, it sets basic standards.
So let's use the example from the source to make it really concrete. If your potential revenue is that PHP 33,246,
Okay.
and your costs add up, say, 3K for cleaning, 4K utilities, 1K maintenance, 5K platform fees, 2K taxes, what does that come to? 15,000?
Yep, PHP 15,000 in costs.
So you subtract that 15K from the 33K-ish revenue. Your actual profit is more like PHP 18,246.
18,000 pesos. Still decent.
Right.
But a lot less than the initial 33,000.
Exactly. It shows why you have to budget for those costs. Now, interestingly, the source also mentioned a figure. Something like a two-bedroom apartment potentially earning about PHP 9,289 a year.
Wait, a year? That sounds incredibly low compared to the monthly estimate. 9,000 pesos for a whole year.
I know, right? It seems way off. It really highlights how much averages can hide or maybe how specific data points can be. Perhaps it's a very basic place or only rented out a tiny fraction of the year.
Or maybe that's net profit after really high costs or loan payments. It's hard to say without more context.
But it definitely tells you. Scrutinize the numbers, tailor your expectations to your specific situation. Don't just rely on headline averages.
Good advice.
So, okay. Whether you're that business traveler needing a place or the owner ready to list, where do you actually start looking? And what needs to be in that agreement?
Well, the big online platforms are usually the first stop for finding a place, right? Airbnb, Booking.com.
Yeah, they have huge selections, loads of filters for location, price, amenities, very convenient.
But a really key insight here is don't just look at the star rating. You need to read the reviews.
Oh, absolutely. Look for patterns. Is everyone complaining about the Wi-Fi? Or the noise? Or maybe the host is unresponsive?
Exactly. Use those filters smartly, too. Need good Wi-Fi for work? Filter for it. Air conditioning is pretty much essential in Manila, right?
Non-negotiable for most people, I'd say. And check the map. How close is it really to the MRT or where you need to be for work?
Crucial details.
But our sources also say, don't just look at the big international sites.
Right. Explore local options, too.
Yeah, check out real estate websites based in the Philippines. You might find better deals or unique properties not listed elsewhere.
And sometimes you can find direct contact info for property managers, maybe bypass some fees. Plus, you see more fully furnished options tailored for longer stays sometimes.
And here's another tip. Social media groups. Facebook groups for expats in Manila, digital nomads.
Ah, yes. Those can be gold mines for hidden gems, right?
Totally. And don't forget simple referrals. Ask people you know. Personal recommendations often come with insider tips you won't find online.
That personal touch can make a big difference in trust and reliability. For owners, too, thinking about these local channels to market your place could be smart.
Definitely. Which brings us to the agreement itself. Once you found a place, or you're the host with a guest, what are the absolute must-check details in that rental contract?
Okay, beyond just the price per night or per month, are utilities included? That's a big one.
Huge. And are there other fees? Cleaning fees, service charges, security deposits. Make sure it's all clear up front.
And for longer stays, like a month or more, it might be worth asking if the rate is negotiable.
Doesn't hurt to ask. Then there are the actual clauses in the lease. What should people look out for there?
Our sources flag a few key things. House rules. Noise, pets, smoking, extra guests. Make sure you know what's expected.
Cancellation policy. What happens if you need to leave early or if the host cancels? What notice is needed? What are the penalties?
Super important. Also, who handles maintenance and repairs? And get emergency contact info, plumber, electrician, building admin.
Good point. And for furnished places, an inventory list.
Yes, it seems tedious, but checking off furniture, appliances, even linens against the list when you move in and out prevents so many arguments about what was there or what got damaged.
Absolutely. And generally, if anything in the agreement seems unclear, just ask.
Please do. Ask the landlord, ask the property manager, get clarification. Better to ask upfront than have a misunderstanding later.
No question is a dumb question when it comes to contracts.
None at all. And if things do go wrong, despite your best efforts,
Document everything. Keep emails, messages, payment records, photos of any issues.
know your basic rights as a tenant or landlord under the civil code, and maybe consider mediation before jumping straight to lawyers if a dispute arises.
Yeah, often a quicker, less stressful way to sort things out.
Definitely worth exploring.
Okay, so let's pull back the look at the bigger picture, the overall market trends in Manila, and that legal framework we keep mentioning.
Right, the macro view.
So recapping the numbers from the source, around 1,419 listings we talked about. Average occupancy, about 51%. Average daily rate, roughly PHP, 1,847.
Got it. And connecting this to the wider property market, there was that interesting stat. Residential rents in Metro Manila actually dipped slightly, 0.4% in the first quarter of 2025.
Only a small dip, but still. What could that mean for short-term rentals?
Well, you could speculate, right? Does a slight drop in long-term rents make owners more inclined to try short-term rentals instead? Maybe increasing competition?
Or does it suggest a general softness in the rental market that might put downward pressure on short-term prices, too?
It's something to keep an eye on, definitely a dynamic to watch. And it reinforces why understanding the legal side is so important. The civil code of the Philippines applies here.
Right, we keep coming back to that, but it's crucial. This isn't just a casual handshake deal, even for a week. It's a legally recognized agreement.
It is. And that provides protections, but also responsibilities for both sides.
Which is precisely why, given how complex things can be, especially with those varying LGU rules, our sources really push for getting professional legal advice.
Yeah, they call the rules a potential minefield. A lawyer who specializes in Philippine property law can be incredibly helpful.
They can help you draft or review agreements, make sure they're solid, explain your rights, help out if there's a dispute.
Think of it less as a cost, more as an investment in protecting yourself.
Good way to put it. Getting that advice early can save a lot of trouble and potentially money later on.
Absolutely, which loops back perfectly to making sure permits are actually in order.
Right. Double check everything. Zoning laws, business permits. Are they actually in place? Because, as we heard, operating without them
Can lead to fines, shutdowns, major headaches, and that stark contrast we discussed loads of listings, practically zero official licenses. It really is a call for anyone serious about this long term to aim for compliance.
For sure. For genuine, sustainable success and just peace of mind.
Exactly.
So wrapping this all up, what's the takeaway? Our deep dive into Manila's short-term rental scene shows it's definitely a place of opportunity, but wow, it's complex too.
Opportunity and complexity sums it up well.
You've got to navigate this web of local rules, Really understand your potential profit after costs, be smart about finding the right place or guest, and be super careful with agreements.
Being informed, doing your homework, it's non-negotiable.
It really is your best asset in this market.
And maybe connecting this all together, thinking about that bigger picture, especially that finding from our source about high market activity, but almost zero official licensing.
Mm.
It does leave you with a pretty interesting question to ponder.
Okay, what's that?
Well, for you, the listener, whether you're a host or a guest, in an environment like Manila's short-term rental market, how do you effectively balance that obvious potential for profit or the convenience of finding a great place with the clear necessity of operating ethically, legally, and safely to really ensure not just short-term gain, but long-term success and genuine peace of mind?